It's not about the end goal, as you probably know by now. It's about the journey. At least in this journey, you get to hit things, so...
Hey, Emma, what drum kit do you use?
Am I too old to start playing drums?
Should I get lessons?
How do I
Why
play
do drums
fast?
cost
When
so
will I
much?
start sounding good?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast Missing a Beat, where we talk about musical and drum-related things. Probably. Usually. Chris, you got to tell me what we're talking about today.
The question for the day is, does drumming have an age limit?
Chris, say it with me. No.
No.
It does not. End of podcast. That's it. Well, okay, there's probably more to talk about than just that. But in my opinion, there is no age limit to playing drums. So if that's something you think and it's stopping you from playing drums, stop it immediately. Go play some drums. But, of course, if you start young, there are benefits, obviously. But that doesn't mean you can't learn at a later date or get enjoyment out of it. I guess the real question is, what do you want to achieve? That's the second question you have to ask in retort to, is there an age limit?
Does learning the drums have an age limit is often what people like. Am I too old to start learning? Maybe is a more common question that we see a lot in the comments, right? Like, oh, I'd love to do it, but or just stating that they are too old to start learning. That's just a statement often, not even a question. It's just like, oh, I'd love to. I wish. Oh, I did it for 6 months when I was a kid, and then I stopped because whatever reason, right? My parents said it was too loud. This, that, all these different things. And it's like, it isn't too late to start at any point. Like, people start, I mean, we've had, I think the oldest age in the music school that I can remember off the top of my head, someone started at 75. So, and I know people have started learning later than that even, right? And so, and was quite proficient. We had an interview once with a teacher who was telling us they had a student start in their 70s and got to grade 8 before their 80s.
Wow.
Which, for those of you, if you're not familiar with the UK grade system, is grade 8's a pretty good level. Like, grade 1 is when you kind of first start out pretty much. And then grade 8 is when you're pretty accomplished at, playing the drums.
I'd say grade 8 is like you're ready to start really branching out and actually playing in professional settings.
Yes,
potentially.
exactly. So you're competent on the drums. You just probably still don't have a lot of experience outside of just learning the drums, but you're kind of ready to start going into the world of drumming. I'd say that level.
It's interesting that you say that you had a 75-year-old student. Like, you have more experience with big age gaps, because I've taught quite a lot of kids, but I haven't seen more just senior people picking up the drums. Did you think, did they pick it up differently? Were they able to understand things better, or was it just down to the amount of work they put in?
They were very musical already, but never played an instrument, from what I can remember. Might have done, flute or violin for 3 months when they were 7, but they'd not played an instrument properly to any extent. But I think come from a musical family in the sense of they would sing and all these things and maybe go to church, and that was part of their upbringing. But it's interesting because definitely the comprehension was there, but I think it was just the headspace and time to dedicate to it was there.
That's a big one, yeah.
Even somebody that's an adult that comes to learn, they've got a million other things going on in their head. Whereas, like, often when I teach somebody that's retired, I've found that they get obsessed, and there's not many better ways of getting good at something that isn't being obsessed with it, right? So definitely, I think that's a lot to do with it. And they would just spend all day listening, or they would plan their whole days around it. So I think that gave them a massive advantage, and therefore they learned a lot faster in lots of ways. And it was just some of the physical speed things that you just had to take time, and anyone at any age has to still have some time behind it to build the reps, right? But yeah, so I think it's possible for anybody. Obviously, everyone has different limitations, and it depends. physically, I guess, how well you've kept yourself in shape.
Yes,
If you're
definitely.
older, and that's something there. But then drums could be a great way to get you in shape too. I mean, drummers' cardio are like fantastic, right? Someone that plays the drums a lot will have a great cardio. So, and will have great cardio.
I've forgotten who said it now, but there's a fair amount of research into drumming, basically meaning that you won't get dementia, or I don't know if it's Alzheimer's, but it's definitely any kind of degenerative disease mentally. It's very unlikely you'll get it if you're learning an instrument, but drums especially. So that is definitely an interesting angle if that's something you're concerned about or runs in your family.
Yeah, it'd be really good. It would be good to have somebody come on at some point, wouldn't it, and talk in a bit more detail that has the science behind it. But yes, I believe you might be referring to, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, so nobody quote me on this. I think it might have been a Harvard study that was done on this, and I mean, to the point of there's studies where that people that learn an instrument in general, the shapes of their brains are different to somebody that doesn't learn an instrument. A brain surgeon can open up two skulls and look at two brains and go, they learned an instrument to a certain level and they didn't. And there's actually nothing else that they know of that I've heard of since finding out that does that. Even languages and other things, they don't quite do that. And it's because if you think about it, and I want to be really clear here, I think that you have to have read music as well. And the reason is to do with the fact that when you're reading and you're playing and you're coordinating and you're listening, and there's all these different things that you have to do simultaneously, there isn't anything else that we as human beings do that does all of those things. That isn't music, all at the same time. So
I have another question. In terms of, do you think, well, this is my theory in terms of the difference between learning when you're young and learning when you're not young. You have the benefit when you're young of retention in terms of the kids I've taught. You teach them something and they've got it, or you ask them to play it the next week, and even if they haven't practiced, they've retained it.
Yeah.
So it's like they've got the advantage of being a sponge.
Yes.
Basically.
Yep.
But they might not have the discipline of an adult.
Yes.
So, and also life skills might have taught you, like if you're playing another instrument, for example, definitely will benefit as well. So it's not a question of if it's too old. Even another question, is it possible to be too young? I don't think it matters.
That's a really good one, actually. Better, and that doesn't get discussed as much. And you're absolutely right. Is it too young? I mean,
would it affect your physiology a little bit? Like if you're playing at a drum kit, like a lot of kids, that's too big, does that then lead to issues later down the line? Like kids who start acrobatics and gymnastics too soon, for example. Is it a similar thing? I don't know.
Well, I think like you would probably start off being very percussive anyway, rather than on a full drum kit, just due to the size. And maybe you can have a kid-sized drum kit, I don't know, and like whatever. So you would do a lot of that from a young age. But I think like the people that have music as a mother tongue, as I like to call it, right?
Yeah.
They were in it right from an early age. They were embedded into that. And I think
it's a language.
It's a language. It is a language. And there's that bass player that talks about it. I can never remember his name, and everyone always corrects me. Yes. And talks about exactly that. And so go check him out on YouTube. It's like a masterclass he did. It's about 20-30 minutes. It's been clipped up, and that's really interesting. And he talked about that in further detail there. If you want to hear more about that kind of concept, I think there's Tony Oyster Jr. There's a clip as well somewhere that is like he talks about like crawling. They couldn't find him in the studio, and he's a few months old, and he crawls out of the bass drum where they'd been playing, right? And his I think his dad was a musician, and like it's literally like that. Obviously, it wouldn't be good for your ears. Don't suggest it, but it's the fact that he's literally in that environment, right? And just there, living and breathing it. And then it's why so many people from the gospel scene have are just phenomenal musicians, because
otherworldly,
it's a mother tongue, and they often don't know what they're playing, right? They have no idea. It's just
flow state.
So
it is an incredible thing, but don't let that hold you back if you haven't been born basically in a bass drum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then that
it doesn't have to stop you.
Yeah.
Well, think about Vicky, right? How old was she when she picked up drums?
I want to say 19, I believe. She was 19 when she started drums. Yeah.
Still reasonably young, but not crazy. And now she's doing it. What?
You're talking about being a sponge. You're not as much of a sponge at 19 as you are at 6, for example.
No,
so
but the passion's there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
actually, it's more about the passion.
Yeah, it's the combination of all those things, isn't it? I think
Mm-hmm.
And then you see, I can't remember her name, the one that was hit like a girl, Nandi Rochelle. Is that how you say her name?
Ooh. Can't remember.
Sorry, we will put the name up on the
gal.
video. And yeah, she's. I mean, she plays everything. I saw her doing a video with a violin the other day, like coming up, and she, and she's dancing, and she's done. I think she did a music video. Was it Brian May? I want to say recently as well, and like played the guitar. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
And what was crazy when we were at the drum show, I jumped in very quickly to go and grab something from behind stage, and she was on stage talking as a panel. And she was talking about if you're going to get into drums, then do it for the right reasons, and then her maturity levels and understanding it. And you could say that she's absorbed that from maybe the environment that she's been in, but she still seemed like she was talking her own truths there at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting. And she's an example of that, obviously, again, because she can just play everything straight out, and because she's been in that environment. But yeah, I think, sorry, you just come back to what you were saying, Emma. I was like, that's that, and that's fine. But if you haven't had that and you are starting what feels like from scratch, just enjoy every step of picking up the sticks, learning this new thing. It's going to be a challenge, and it will benefit your life in so many ways that you can't understand until a few years down the line.
It's not about the result.
It isn't
either.
It's not it's just really not.
Obviously,
is it?
It's a motivation.
Yeah,
but it's not about the end goal, as you probably know by now. Sage wisdom. It's about the journey. At least in this journey, you get to hit things. So
yeah, you can just enjoy it. That's it. And so therefore, as you're saying, it's why are you doing it? So there's no age limit. It doesn't even matter if you're bad, does it? It's I go and do jiu-jitsu every few months. I get absolutely pummeled. It's fun. I walk out afterwards and I'm like, yeah, that was a good laugh. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's fun. The same with when I do boxing. It's the same thing. Just hitting pads. I can't punch at all, but it feels good. You can get that from drums very quickly, actually, can't you? That's the thing. You within a few hours for most people.
Lowest barrier to entry, I'd say, musically.
Yeah, I would say it's got to be one of the lowest barriers to entry, and you can just play along to songs pretty quickly and have fun. So yeah, no age limit. Anything else?
I think that's it, really. I mean, we've full circled round to the very short answer of, is there an age limit to drumming? No. So you could have just listened to the first 30 seconds, but hey, thanks for staying around. We'll see you in the next episode of Missing a Beat. Farewell, have a good week. Mwah. Shock, horror, surprise. There are more episodes, just like this one, of this podcast. You should check them out. You'd probably like them if you got to the end of the video. So check them out. Big love.